consultation to evaluate your legal case. If they take your case, they only get paid if they win. Whether you've been injured in a motor vehicle crash, slip and fall, workplace accident, or through the negligence of someone else, you need attorney Shane Farnsworth fighting on your side. Call now for a free consultation. That's 561-272-8337. You are listening to the Ask the Expert Show with host Steve-O. We will be right back with more experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Join us every Thursday from 6 p.m. Now, get ready for more Ask the Experts.
Hey, and we are back for our second half hour of our show. The show is Ask the Experts. We're on every Monday and Thursday from 6 to 7. And then we have our little political show on Tuesday nights at 7. But this is the big show. This is the big kahuna show. And tonight's show is going to be on personal injury. We have attorney Shane Farnsworth. He's been with us for several years. He is really an incredible attorney. And you know what? You never know. You don't pick an attorney off of a bus or off of a billboard. With our show, I'm telling you're getting the cream of the crop. And let's welcome. Oh, he's got glasses on tonight. Let's welcome Shane Farnsworth.
Hi, Steve. How are you doing tonight?
Hey, Shane. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. It's the weather's getting a little bit cooler. It's nice out, so this is the time of year to be in Florida.
It is, and it looks like Florida is letting everybody go back to work, so that means more cars on the street. That means more auto accidents going on, and but that's not all you do. Shane, we just saw last week we had this huge jump in numbers, and I'm sure it's because of Freddie. But tell people about your firm, because we've got a lot of new listeners now.
Sure. We're located in downtown Delray Beach. If you know where the IPIC Theater is, we're across from there. Our office has been there since 1999. Our firm specializes primarily in personal injury, so car accidents, slip and falls, dog bites. We do insurance disputes, so if you have homeowners claims against your insurance company, we handle all those sorts of things.
And we've talked about that. There are a few areas you don't cover, like workers' comp, but we got at least 4 phone calls this week that we gave your phone number to regarding nursing homes. Do you handle nursing home abuse?
We don't, but if you have that issue, we can help get you to somebody that does. We don't do nursing home, workers' comp, or medical malpractice. But like I said, we primarily focus on car accidents and slip and falls, and those sorts of things. And like I said, general insurance disputes. So if your hot water heater blows up and your house gets flooded and they don't want to pay to fix it, we handle those types of claims as well.
And something else, when we say auto accidents, we sure don't want to leave out riding a bicycle or injured while you're riding a bicycle.
Yeah, we represent not just people riding bicycles, but pedestrians as well. I mean, here in Florida, we're active, we're outside, the weather's nice, there's lots of cars, there's lots of distractions, people not paying attention, and it can be a very dangerous place to be a pedestrian or a bicycle rider. So unfortunately, there are times when vehicles come into contact with pedestrians and bicycle riders and injure them, or in some cases kill them. So, we do represent people in cases, that are pedestrians or bicycles injured by vehicles.
I also had another question that we got in from on Twitter about they wanted to know if you do what death.
Wrongful death?
Wrongful death.
Yes, we do handle those
cases.
cases.
With an R. Do you handle wrongful death cases?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. With COVID, God, there's so many things going on. I mean, like, people know that I had knee surgery and they put me into a nursing home to rehab, and that's where I got COVID at. And it's, I don't know what that falls under, but it seems like, I don't know, it just doesn't seem that was the right place to put me. And and there's people who are dying from COVID, and I didn't know if that falls under personal injury.
If you go someplace and they're negligent, and their negligence results in you becoming COVID positive and having damages, that's potentially a lawsuit you can bring. We're not personally doing any of those at this point, but those may arise as we keep going through this. One thing I wanted to bring up, Steve, is a kind of a segue to the doctor who was on before me. He was talking about PRP, platelet-rich plasma,
Right.
and in treatment, he was talking about orthopedists that use it in treatment for personal injury accidents. That's something that can happen too. And I know you've just had that knee surgery.
Yeah.
And that's something that can be used to help heal problems that come about as a result of a personal injury as well. So I can't really top the P shot, but if you do have injuries, that is something that is available. Generally, insurances won't pay for it. It's considered experimental, but I've had clients that have had excellent results from using that in their convalescence.
You keep using the word negligence. And by the way, we're talking with Shane Farnsworth. He's an personal injury attorney here in South Florida. What exactly is negligence?
Well, negligence is when somebody has a duty and they breach that duty, and as the result of that breach, you incur damages. Those are the elements of a negligence claim. So, if I'm driving down the road, I have a duty to do so in a safe manner. If I'm speeding or running the light, I've obviously breached that duty. And if I run the light and you have the green light and you're coming through the intersection and I plow into you and you get injured from that, I've breached and you have damages. So that's how negligence comes about.
We were just talking a minute ago about bicycles and pedestrians. Is that very common, injury to bicyclists or to pedestrians getting hit by a car?
It is, especially in South Florida. We have a lot of people. A lot of people mean a lot of cars, a lot of traffic congestion. People aren't always patient and willing to share the road with people on bicycles. I know, if you ever go down A1A on the weekends, they do have the bike lane, but a lot of times there's bicyclists and large numbers of them, and sometimes they're in the travel lane. And when people are in close proximity to vehicles and people, like I said, get distracted. There's lots of people. There's construction. There's a lot going on. Unfortunately, sometimes that results in people being injured.
If you ride a motorcycle like I used to, you notice that you're going, and I'll use your A1A. You're going down A1A, and there's always some car that feels like they got to come out in front of you from one of the side roads, and you look behind you, there's no one there, but they felt like they had to go right away. And I can't even imagine how many motorcycles had to put their bike down because someone came off one of those side streets and they had to put the brakes on.
Yeah, we represent people that are on motorcycles as well. I think motorcycles are more difficult to see, and unfortunately, if you're not paying a lot of attention and you just look quickly, it's not hard to miss either a motorcycle or a person coming along on a bicycle. So it's important for drivers to be vigilant and pay attention, especially this time of year. We've changed the clocks at this point, so we're pretty much dark by 5:30, and as we get closer to December, up until the 21st of December, the days keep getting shorter. So it's going to be darker longer. And, people want to be outside and exercise. Everybody's been cooped up. They want to, get out and stay in shape. And when it's dark, that makes things even harder for vehicles to see you. So, this time of year, whether you're the person driving the vehicle or the person on the bicycle or walking, you need to pay extra attention and make sure you take precautions to protect yourself.
Shane, here's a good example that if you're going on a motorcycle 40 or 45 miles an hour and at night and someone pulls out from a side street and you have to put the brakes on, that back wheel comes out and sometimes the whole bike comes down. Are they responsible for that?
Yeah, if they pull out in front of you and you have to evade the accident, and as a result you get injured, yes, they would be responsible for that.
Then
So
you got
it
to
goes
go
back
get
to negligence.
you
They
got to
have,
their
they have a
license
duty
plate.
to wait for you. If they don't wait for you and they pull out in front of you, they breach their duty, and that causes you to put your bike down and crash, and you're damaged. You have the elements of a negligence suit. So what you just mentioned also is important. If they take off, it can be difficult to get a license plate or know who it was. However, I know we've talked in the past about uninsured motorist coverage. And if you have uninsured motorist coverage on your policy, and that's a situation sometimes we call a phantom driver, somebody that darts into a lane or pulls out in front of you and then they disappear and you don't know where they are, but an accident occurs and you're injured as a result of their negligence. If you have uninsured motorist coverage, you can pursue the claim through your coverage.
Here in South Florida, Shane, we see all these bicycle clubs where there's 30, 40 bicycles, and then sometimes they're going down a pretty narrow bike path. Not all bike paths are wide. What is the best way for a cyclist to protect themselves?
Well, obviously, wearing safety equipment. In Florida, if you're under the age of 16, you're required to wear a bicycle helmet. If you're over 16, you don't have to wear a bicycle helmet, but in my opinion, you're foolish if you don't. You can get extremely injured and hurt, even if you're not hit by a car, but you go over the front of your bicycle and you hit your head. There's all kinds of things that can happen. Like I was talking about being nighttime now, being dark for long periods of time. Between sunset and sunrise, if you're riding a bicycle in the state of Florida, you're required to have lights on the bicycle. You have to have a lamp on the front of your bike that emits white light up to 500 feet. And on the back of your bike, you have to have a red reflector and a red light that emits light up to 600 feet. And I can't tell you how many times I see people out riding bicycles that don't have any lights on them. And,
I do.
And you mentioned I'm wearing glasses today. Well, it's not just me. As you get older, it gets harder to see at night. So, and we have the snowbirds coming down at this point. So, I definitely wear a helmet if you're going to be out biking at nighttime, or even if you're going to be a pedestrian and you're walking. Get a flashing light and put it on your clothes so people are able to see you from a distance and to avoid you. Because if you don't have those, especially if you're wearing dark clothes, you're inviting disaster.
There was a congressman who used to be a congressman here in Palm Beach County who's now in Texas, and he rides a motorcycle, and he was on the freeway, and he went down. Usually, if you go down on a freeway, you're probably not going to be around to talk about it, but he talks about how his helmet saved him, and so did the jacket that was a safety jacket for motorcycle riders. And,
it's
some people don't like wearing a helmet, but do you want to live or die?
Exactly. If you're going to be riding a motorcycle, it's a choice that you have to make, but, being around and living is more important. So the helmet's important. And like I said, on a bicycle, you're not moving the same rate of speed and you're not necessarily in the road, but you are going fast enough that if you come off that bike and hit your head, you can very easily end up with a serious concussion or brain injury. So, it's imperative to protect yourself and wear equipment to make sure you don't get hurt if something does happen.
But now a bicycle rider can sue, though, for damages.
Yes, absolutely. If you're injured by the negligence of somebody else, just like any other sort of personal injury case, you have the right to sue the person that caused your injuries.
So we've talked about what they should do if they're in an automobile accident. They should call you immediately because if you don't get them anything, there's no charge. But what
Yeah,
about
that's
for a
actually,
pedestrian?
yeah, that really is across the board as far as, it's really two different things you just brought up. One is, if I'm injured by the negligence of somebody else, when should I contact an attorney? And we've talked about this in the auto accident context, but it really applies to any personal injury case. The sooner the better, because once the attorney is involved, we can make sure that your rights are being protected. We can talk to potential witnesses and secure their statements. Look at potential evidence that has to be preserved. The sooner the better. And as to the second part of it, in personal injury actions, we use what's called a contingency fee agreement. What that means is if we don't collect any money for you, it doesn't cost you anything. If we collect any money for you, we get a percentage of the amount that we collect.
There's, and we've talked about this before with accidents. They need to really hire an attorney like yourself because you don't want them talking to the insurance company because they're going to be calling right away.
Yeah, what can happen is you get involved in an accident and the insurance company for the party that injured you will call you up and they'll ask to take your statement, and you're not required to give them a statement. And if you do, the adjuster is going to be pleasant and seem quite nice, but when they take your statement, they're trained in how to do it, and really what they're trying to do is make your claim worth as little as possible. So they may ask you questions that seem innocuous enough, and you may answer them unknowingly, and ultimately hurt your case, not because you did anything wrong, just because you weren't familiar with how things work, and you answered questions that if you had talked to an attorney ahead of time, they would have explained why it's being asked and how it is that it affects your case, and then you can answer appropriately. And if you don't have that counsel, you can dig yourself a hole.
Oh, absolutely. I think I know I did. I told you about a friend of mine who was in an accident, and the next day he got a phone call from an attorney that was going to offer him $10,000. And that was, he probably would have given him $10,000, but he was probably going to make a heck of a lot more off of that. And there's attorneys out there that, let's say, they don't do everything on the up and up when it comes to auto accidents.
Right. Yeah. What you just described is what's called solicitation, when an attorney or a representative of a law office reaches out to somebody that they know may be in need of legal representation. You're not allowed to do that. The client has to contact you. And I know you mentioned this before, and I think what they were probably telling them is the $10,000 is probably your PIP coverage.
Probably,
in the
yeah.
state of Florida. The state of Florida, we're a no-fault state, so everybody's required to have PIP and property damage. Those are the only two coverages that you're required to have legally. So being a no-fault state, PIP pays the first $10,000 of your medical bill. So that's available to you whether or not you hired that attorney or not. And that's not money that's coming to you in your pocket. That's money that gets paid to a medical provider for
Right.
Medical care that you receive.
So when it comes to a bicycle or let's say you get hit by a car as a pedestrian and they have no insurance, what happens?
Well, it depends on the situation. If you're a pedestrian and you get hit by a car or a bicyclist, your auto insurance applies to you. So that $10,000 in PIP we just talked about is still available to you if you're a pedestrian or bicyclist injured by a motor vehicle for medical care. Now, as far as collecting money for damages, if the person doesn't have bodily injury coverage, that's sort of similar to the situation we discussed earlier where there's a phantom driver that causes you to crash, but they take off and you don't have their information, you don't have their insurance. in that instance, and in an instance where somebody doesn't have bodily injury, you have to look to your policy to see if you have uninsured motorist coverage. If you have uninsured motorist coverage, you can use that in order to collect your damages. If you don't have uninsured motorist coverage and the other person doesn't have bodily injury, you're essentially out of luck unless that person happens to be independently wealthy, which seldom is the case if they don't have insurance. So I know we've talked about this before. One of the most important coverages you can have on your insurance is uninsured motorist coverage. In order to have that, you have to purchase bodily injury coverage, and your uninsured motorist coverage can't exceed the limits of your bodily injury. So I always try to encourage people, number one, to get bodily injury coverage to protect themselves, but also so they can get the uninsured motorist coverage, and try to get the highest limits you can afford and try to match that with the uninsured motorists, because there's no shortage of people driving in Florida that either don't have insurance or have the legally required minimum, which is PIP and property damage, and doesn't require bodily injury.
Shane, if I told you a friend of mine who's a police officer in Miami told me that half the drivers in Miami do not have insurance, would you be surprised at that, or does that sound really high?
I guess, it would depend. I don't know that statistically that's any sort of fact. That seems high to me, but, depending on where you are, there, you may have higher incidences of people that are uninsured. And, if that's the area in which he's working and he's going to auto accidents, he may encounter it more often than the county as a whole. But I can tell you, in the state of Florida, there's no shortage of people driving illegally with no insurance. And like I said, even there's lots of people driving perfectly legally, but all they have is a PIP PD policy. And if that person hits you and injures you, there's no coverage to pay for your injuries. They have coverage to pay for the damage to your car. That's the property damage. And their PIP doesn't pay for you either. You have to use your own PIP because we're a no-fault state. So, like I said, uninsured motorist coverage is super important to protect yourself. And bodily injury is important if you're going to be a responsible citizen too. If I'm driving down the road and I injure Steve, I should be responsible for my actions and have adequate coverage to deal with that. So it's a moral obligation, in my opinion, as well.
One of the things we've learned about your firm is customer service is so important to you. And if you've ever had a claim and you contacted an attorney and you call to see what's going on, you might get a call a week and a half later. You really take care. You might not get back with them that day, but within the next couple of days, your customer service is fabulous.
Yeah, as a general rule, if you call me before 3 o'clock, we'll get back to you that day. If it's after 3, we'll probably get back to you that day. But things happen and we get tied up with other stuff. It may be the next day, but we do pride ourselves on the fact that we provide excellent customer service to our clients. That's how we build our business. The majority of our clients come through referrals from other clients. So we need to make sure that they're taken care of so that we can continue to build that pipeline. So yeah, and we want people to be educated and understand what's going on during the process. It's better for them to know and understand, and it's better for us to have them educated because that makes them a better client. So, if you call, I have an assistant who's very good at what she does, and she's normally able to handle most questions, but I'm always available to a client. If they need to speak to me, I will make sure that they do speak to me, and I'll answer the questions that they have. And, we are, certainly accessible, and that's one of the things, that sets us apart.
So even if somebody's in Plantation, you do it through video now.
We do. I have a case in Pinellas County that's in litigation that we did depositions in yesterday. They were done via, it wasn't exactly Zoom, it was a different platform,
right,
but the same type of thing. So yeah, and court appearances right now are primarily being conducted via Zoom. And so it's not just, if you're in Plantation, that's fine. But I represent people throughout the state. Primarily our clients come from Palm Beach, Broward, but we have clients in Central Florida, West Coast of Florida, North Florida. So
That's
Yeah,
because
I
you're
mean,
so
if
good
you're
at
here on our
what you
show,
do.
we can represent you.
That's because you're so good at what you do. Give everybody your phone number, Shane.
Sure. The phone number is 561-272-8337, and our website is farnsworthlaw.net.
And a lot of the shows are on your website that you can go back and reference.
Yes, all the Ask the Experts show are on there. This one will be uploaded to it, probably, by the beginning of next week. But yeah, you can call us on the phone at 561-272-8337 or go to farnsworthlaw.com. I'm sorry, farnsworthlaw.net, and you can, contact us through there. There's an area you can do that.
Shane, thank you so much. Have a great week. Shane will be back with us again next month for more Ask the Experts, and we will be back with you Monday at 6 o'clock for more Ask the Experts. Have a good weekend.
Thanks for listening to the Ask the Expert Show, featuring interviews with local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Call our office at 888-574-6999 to become one of our experts on the show. And tune in again next week for more Ask the Experts with Steve-O.